everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore. Welcome. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. This is number 180, broadcast number 180. So thank you for being here today. Some of you have probably been here 180 times, which is really nice. So today we're going to talk about singing exercises for control of breathing. And let me just start out by asking you this question. How many of you have ever had a problem breathing and, with your singing? How many of you have ever, is breathing ever an issue or a problem for you when you sing? I tried to remember in my life. I can specifically remember one time when I could not. I didn't have enough air for a particular song I was singing. I was in a show, and there was this. Well, first of all, let me just ask you before I get too far into this: can you hear me and can you see me? That's the first question. Can you hear me and can you see me? I want to make sure that you are good. Devish says never had a problem with the breathing, so I guess he can hear me. You can hear me and see me, Devish. So thanks. Arthur, hi. I can hear and see you. Great. So, in my experience, what I was singing. I was playing the role of Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, and I had something. I had a light, soft solo where Scrooge is watching Tiny Tim being put to bed by his father, Bob Cratchit, and he was singing he was singing about how Tiny Tim was as fragile as air, and it seemed as if it were something like. I had to sing like an F, it seems like, and it was very soft and very lilting, and the note was held out pretty long. And so as I was singing, and there was something before that. So anyway, what I was finding was that I didn't have quite enough air to complete my note. And so I used a specific strategy. I'll share that with you. I used a strategy to have enough air to hold the long note in a soft and rather light kind of tone. And that's really about the only time in my life I can think of that I had a problem with breathing when I was singing. So let me ask you this question. Have you ever had a problem with breathing while you were speaking? I'm not talking about running, around running around the bases or running around the yard or up and down the street or racing and trying to talk afterwards, like when you're out of breath. But just speaking in general, do you have a problem breathing when you speak? I'm curious about that. Anybody here have a problem breathing when you speak? I can think of one young lady that I was acquainted with who also became a student of mine for a period of time. And when she was younger, she was really young, and she would be talking like this. This is the way she talked all the time. And she she was such she spoke so quickly and so excited and animated about everything that she just had a hard time getting her breath. I mean, it was like now she's completely changed. She matured. This was like when she was in grade school, but she was just so excited about life and about everything that she talked so quickly that she didn't take time to breathe. But she's overcome that now, and she has plenty of air to talk. So how about you? Have you ever had a problem breathing while you speak? Let me just say hi. Music Progress, nice to have you here today. Stanislav, Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Any tips on decrescendo? Yeah, that's a really interesting question because you have to have pretty good control of your voice to be able to crescendo, decrescendo. And so, what is a decrescendo? Is to get softer. And so, one of the things that people like to be able to do is, if you were singing that same thing that I just sang, so you heard in that I started out softly, I crescendoed, and then I decrescendoed. I got softer after I crescendoed. And so that takes air, yes, but before it takes air, it also takes vocal cord control. And before you can really get vocal cord control, you have to be able to mix. And so in order to be able to mix, you have to be able to bridge. That is, to go from chest to head voice successfully. So for the guys, you have to get through E, F, F sharp, G, the E, F sharp primarily. The ladies, that's the E4. The ladies, you have to be able to do that on A, B flat, B, and C5. And so if you can't bridge successfully, you're gonna have a really hard time doing a crescendo decrescendo, no matter what kind of, no matter how fantastic your breathing is. And so these things are kind of linked together. Okay, so Bricks, hi, nice to have you here today. Thank you. Dust Composer, nice to have you here. Mr. G, I started having breathing problems in my 20s. After 20 years as a singer, I stopped because it was too hard to go on. Mr. G, I'm curious, did you have problems speaking and breathing? Or was it just singing and breathing? Alan Serban, hi, nice to have you here today. And Stanislaus says, yes, when I want to sing a very long phrase. So you guys, it seems like that's related to the problem I had. I had a very long note to hold out, and it was at the end of another phrase, and it was in my bridge, and it was soft, and so I probably relaxed the vocal cords a little bit more than I do normally because it was softer, and as a result, more air was escaping, and so I had a problem of getting enough air. So let me show you what I did. Now this is the only time I've ever done this, but I did a double breathing technique. Never actually had anybody show this to me before. And so that double breathing technique was like this. First of all, I did my low breath. And so let me back this way. So if I stand up straight, shoulders back, tummy tucked in. Hold on a second here. I've got my chat box in the way of my image. I can't see. All right. So chest is up, not down. Chest is up. Tummy's pulled in. So when I was singing that song, I took a low breath. So the diaphragm drops, tummy comes out. And I filled up air. Air went into my lungs, right? I know it's harder to hear me like this, but so filled up with air, like there's a balloon down here. I filled up with air, and then I took a high breath. Watch my chest. So I did step one, and then I also I finished I completed the air in my lungs. I maxed it out. I had, if there was this much room left after I took this much air in with my low breath, and I had just a little bit, I took the low breath and filled up my lungs, and then I maximized it with another high breath, which I don't recommend because it engages the neck muscles, you know. But the combination of those two breaths, low breath, and then just a little bit more to top it off, I was maxed out. And then I could sing my note. So if I said, so, so low breath, high breath. That's hard to do. Now I'm sitting down. Maybe it's a little bit harder. I'm working on getting my weight back down, which makes it harder to have extra load of weight on you that you don't need. But that's how I was able to do that particular note on that particular song at that particular loudness. And so I had to take that low breath, and then I had to sneak in a high breath. And now I'm maxed out, and I was able to do that. Now, that's an unusual situation. I've never had it happen in my life. The harder part for me, singing with and needing air, is when I'm also doing choreography. And so last year, has it been 2 years now? Yeah, it would have been last year at this time. I was doing My Fair Lady, and I was playing the role of Alfred Doolittle, who gets to sing and dance several times. And he sings the song, I'm getting married in the morning, ding dong, the bells are gonna chime. And so we have this big, exciting, fun number where we're dancing all over the stage, and and you all, those of you who have sung and danced at the same time, know that if the choreographer is is not thinking at all about the poor singer, then you can really get out of breath with some some very exciting and fun choreography, but you're running out of air. That's another kind of problem too, right? So you have to get in good physical condition in order to be able to do those kinds of parts, because you're going to have to breathe and dance and sing at the same time. Anyway, there's nothing more fun than that. Okay, so Rob says, hi. All good here. Great. More a case of controlling breath over long phrases, not always successful. Yeah, so that's my experience too, Rob. Well, anytime I speak to a woman, my breath always got a problem. Okay. That's composer. Yeah, so you got to make sure you eat your mint first, your breath mint. Piero, hi, nice to have you here today. Rob says can also be a problem to sustain some high notes and not use falsetto. Yeah, for sure. The same exact thing. So, although falsetto for me would be harder because the chords aren't together, and so there's a lot of air escaping when the chords are in if the vocal cords are in falsetto, then you're really losing air. I think that's a really big challenge. Okay, so let me get a couple comments here. Other comments. Valerio, nice to have you here today. Thanks for joining us. Lauren McConnell, Thanks for going live. Oh, thanks, Lauren. Nice to have you here today. And yeah, can everybody relate to Dusk Composer today? Sar Sarthak, hi, nice to have you here today. Correct posture and plus SLX exercises. You know, let me just say that as a part of what I want to talk about today as far as exercises are concerned, is that double breath is a nice little secret that you may want to try. But the posture is also really a required setup, isn't it? So when we're singing, if we're down like this, what happens is the lungs collapse, right? Now your rib cage is closed up and you're slouched over, even when you stand. A lot of people stand like this. So it's like there's a stick here. Lift that chest up. So lead with your ribs, lead with your chest up. Make sure your shoulders they don't have to be back crazy, but just make sure that they're comfortably back and down. And when you're standing, girls especially, you got to watch out for this. You got to watch out for this sway back, right? So you can either roll your hips forward so that your hips are underneath you, and then the tummy's pulled in. And then when you breathe, tummy drops, air in, and then air is out. You pull that in as you're singing or as you're speaking. Even public speakers need to be aware of that. When you're standing, you're not locked, your knees aren't locked, they're just comfortably flexible. And so it would be about shoulder width apart, your feet, and you just kind of want to keep a little flexibility in your legs. You don't want to be rigid like this, just flexible, and feet about shoulder width apart. Okay, so M. Cross, hi M, nice to have you here today. And Carlos, let me put this right here. Okay, so we got Carlos Gonzalez. Good afternoon, Mr. Gilmore. Can the breathing help the larynx to stabilize? What a great question. Or not having good breath control, does it make your larynx go up? Thanks for your tips. Yes, if you guys put your hands here on your Adam's apple, and ladies, you probably have to push in a little bit to find it. Us guys, it sticks out. But if you take a low breath, so let the tummy drop and let the tummy do this. So if you put your hand there and let that tummy drop and take that low breath, it in many instances, the larynx drops down a little bit, as opposed to a high breath, a high shallow breath. If you put your hand here on your Adam's apple now and take this high breath, where you're just breathing shallow and this high chest, it pulls the larynx up. So Carlos, you're absolutely right. Taking the low breath, letting the tummy drop down, filling up the air, actually settles the larynx. So it's a great setup to begin to sing. Thanks for asking that question. That is an extremely valuable point. Tanya, hi Tanya. I've been singing all my life and I've been struggling with breathing after 2 babies. Something that us guys don't have to worry about. What kind of struggling, Tanya? I'm curious. Been struggling with breathing after 2 babies. I would think that it would be harder while you were pregnant to breathe, for sure. What is it about childbirth do you feel has affected your ability to breathe? Do you breathe differently now than you did before your babies were born? Or what do you think? I'm curious. What is your opinion about that? Debajoti. Hi, sir. Thank you for your advice. How can I use my breath for high notes for a long time? It's the same as using your breath for low notes. It's not so much about breathing as it is you've got to be able to bridge. You have to be able to get through your bridge, the bridge of your voice. For the gentlemen, E, F, F sharp. For the ladies, A, B flat, B, and C. We've got to get through those without going into falsetto, without straining or reaching, without pulling chest. Now, you all need to have identified your vocal type. Your vocal type describes how you tend to get through your bridge. Do you pull chest? Do you raise the larynx up when you go through the bridge? Do you go breathy or light when you go through the bridge? You need to take the vocal test and get your vocal type. So in the description below this video, when it's uploaded to YouTube, when you get this, go read in the description, get my vocal, or get your vocal type. It's a free PDF. Get your vocal type. It'll take you to links to a vocal test. It'll take you to links to the videos that that describe your vocal type and exercises for your vocal type. That's the foundation of this. Because if you can't bridge, then going back to the question here from Mr. Doss, or Miss Doss, sorry, I don't know your gender, I don't know the name well enough to know. It doesn't matter if you can't get through the bridge, then the vocal cords are going to be in falsetto, or they're going to be strained, or they're going to be too tight or too pinched, and then no breathing exercise that I would ever give you would ever help. So you've got to be, in order to be able to do that crescendo, decrescendo, most of us can do it if we're in the chest. But what happens if you're in your bridge? We've got to be able to do it anywhere in the voice. What if you're in your head voice? We've got to be able to do that. It has nothing to do with breathing, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing to do with breathing. It has everything to do with bridging. So you have to be able to get through the bridge. You have to know your vocal type and do your exercises for your vocal type. Some are born able to do that. I couldn't do that until I was 44 years old. And I couldn't crescendo, decrescendo for several years after that. It took a while. But I'll tell you what, talk about breath control. As soon as I was able to do that, then I could do what I just showed you. I had to have my bridging down. I had to have the first bridge and intact. I have to be able to get through there without going in the falsetto, without straining, without breaking. So it gives you an amazing control of your voice because you're in that condition. The vocal cords are in a condition of mix, and in head voice, it allows you to do that. A little bit of a soapbox there for me, but that's the truth. RF says, thank you very much. You are welcome. Thank you. Sarthik, shoulders back and down, chest comfortably high, pelvis tucked. Right on the money. How about artists like James Arthur, who seems to release air, lets a lot of air escape after phrasing? He tends to sound like he's struggling for air, but it sounds good. He probably is struggling for air, and it sounds good when he does. So I don't know James Arthur. I'm not sure what that sounds like, i.e. Mo DC. But if someone sounds like they're struggling for air, it may not be their breathing. So, for example, now I want to talk about this. Just because you're running out of air doesn't necessarily mean you have a breathing problem. Your problem may be that the vocal cords are not coming together firmly. So if I don't get my vocal cords together when I speak, and there's a lot of air escaping, then when I sing, I'm going to run out of air really quickly. I'm out. I could sing that with my vocal cords together softly. But if I don't have my cords together adequately, then I'm going to lose more air faster. It's gone. The problem you may be facing, again, may be related to your vocal type, light chest, no chest, which has to do with the vocal cords adducting appropriately firm to have a balance between the muscle in the vocal cord and the air coming from the lungs. If you've got a nice balance, you're going to have enough air. But if there's too much air escaping, you're going to run out of air. If there's or conversely, if the vocal cord muscle is maybe too tight, too tight, then you're not going to have enough air coming through the vocal folds, coming, through the adducted cords, getting through there. We can destroy. That's not a good word. We could either help or hurt ourselves with the air flowing through our vocal folds, but that all has to do with vocal cords closing too tight or too loosely. It's got to be just right. It's got to be the Goldilocks of vocal folds coming together. If it's too loose, too much air escaping, we're going to run out of air. Oh, I have a breathing problem. Nope. You have a vocal cord issue. They need to be adducted more firmly. All right, so let's talk about that a second. What are some exercises that you could do to help your vocal cords appropriately adduct so that you don't run out of air, so that there's balance between the air flowing from the lungs and the vocal cords closing and opening and closing around the air? Here's an exercise that, and some of you may know that, well, I tend to be breathy. So if you're breathy, you probably have a breathing problem because so much air is escaping, you run out of air all the time. Or you can't be heard. A lot of people will say, well, I have a breathing problem because my voice is so weak, I don't have well, very likely it's not a breathing problem, it's a vocal cord problem. So you would say, That's just working the vocal cords to open, close, or close, open, close. That's exercising the closure of the chord structure. That sound brings those vocal cords together. Now, the other thing you can do is the nay, 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 and do it a little exaggerated. So you could term this an exercise in breathing, because your breathing is going to get better if the vocal cords can adduct appropriately, stronger. Nay, 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 na 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 na. The na na na, the nay nay nay, a little bit exaggerated like that, or that staccato Any exercise like that on a 5-tone scale is immediately going to begin to develop your chord's ability to come together appropriately firm so that you're not losing air. The air is not escaping out of your vocal cords. Again, you want to take the vocal test, and if your vocal type is light chest, no chest, then the exercises that are for that vocal type are going to be exactly what you need to get the vocal cords to come together more firmly. Angela, are you here today? I know Angela's working on those. Okay, so let me take a couple more questions. There's an example of an exercise that's going to help your breathing. It's going to give you more breath control, but it's not really about breathing. It's about the vocal cords coming together firmly or appropriately firm. I'm not saying they have to be. There's a balance that we're trying to get. That's what I'm saying. Okay. M says, I just joined. What did I miss? Oh, you missed it all. All the important stuff has already happened. Okay. Hello. I've been singing all my life. This is from Tanya. Okay. After two babies. All right. I've already talked about that. All right. So let me jump down here to what is the difference? This is Dust Composer. Whoop. Wait a minute. Okay. We've read. Yeah. What's the difference between breath control in strained singing and diaphragm full supported? What's the difference between breath control in strained singing and diaphragm in full supported? Let's separate straining, squeezing, pinching, reaching, grabbing from breathing. Let's just eliminate. Let's not combine those conversations. You could have the best breath control with the greatest support. You could have the diaphragm working. It can be just perfect and still squeeze and strain and grab. Those are two different things. Two different things. Full chest, high larynx isn't necessarily at all about breathing. Could be. I mean, there could be some things. The breathing may be lousy or it may be brilliant, may be the best breathing in the world, and this person's still pulling chest. Breathing is good breathing is more often the result of good vocal technique, not the other way around. Great vocal technique is rarely as a result of being a great breather. I remember hearing Mr. Riggs say this one time. He had some great singers that were lousy breathers. And lousy breathers, wait a minute, great singers that were lousy breathers and great breathers that weren't too hot singing. So, I've heard through the years, I've heard people say, well, my big problems, is my breath control. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's the position of the larynx. Is it too high? It's pulled up chest voice. Condition of the vocal cords, too thick, too heavy, or not coming together enough. But those things are unrelated, generally speaking, unrelated to breathing technique. Breathing is number 3 or number 4 in my mind. I know many of you will leave as a result of my saying such a cruel and horrible thing about breathing. But it's important. And it, in the book Singing for the Stars, and again, I had a conversation with Mr. Riggs, and I asked him once, if you had to, Mr. Seth Riggs, if you had to rewrite your book, Singing for the Stars, what would you change? And he said, I think I would have added a little bit more about breathing. I assumed that people knew how to, singers, I assumed people knew how to breathe for singing. And he said I would put more into it. Not a lot more, but he would just have added a few more things about breathing. So it's important, but it's not the end-all, do-all. His basic position in the book is that good breathing is a result of good technique, not the other way around. But in retrospect, he would probably given more guidance with breathing. All right, so let me push through here. I've got another major thing. Sometimes breathing, there's something else I want to talk about that I just kind of learned today and I want to share with you. Okay, so Tanya says, I feel like my breath doesn't last very long. My core, okay, my core muscles are torn apart. And I wondered if that's what's making everything feel different and my breathing is forever ruined. Tanya, I would like to hear, I've also been a belter my whole life and just now learning to use my mix thanks to you. Awesome. Thanks, Tanya. Maybe I'm not used to my voice sounding softer. You know, mix doesn't necessarily make the voice sound softer, but it does make the voice feel better. And there's not as much strain, there's not as much tension in it. Because we're not grabbing it, we're not gripping it, we're not reaching. But, and so I'm curious, Tanya, if other people have said, oh, your voice has changed since you've had babies. Or are you just feeling it's not as strong? I mean, I know if you're going from belting to mixing, there's a transition for sure. Not, you know, and I'm going to say right now that mix and belt can be as strong and as powerful as belt, but it's not going to have, it's going to have more overtone to it. There's going to be a fuller sound, a fuller component of sound, and a richer quality of the voice. It's not going to be as brassy or as wide. The vowels are going to be a little more narrow, and so there's a different sound for sure. But I wouldn't necessarily characterize that difference in sound as softer, per se. Anyway, Tanya, yeah, so there may be some multiple things going on in terms of you're working on a different technique, and also after the birth of your kids, and also perhaps maybe what you're feeling and what other people are hearing might not be the same thing. You might be thinking or feeling that it's lighter or not as strong, but someone else might say, no, it sounds much stronger than you think. It's hard to know that for sure, but what we hear inside isn't necessarily what other people are hearing, listening to us. Just kind of keep that in mind. Inc. asks the question, do you ever talk or watch any other vocal coaches on YouTube? Do you ever talk to, or yeah, I've talked to Rebecca Athlete in the UK some time ago. It's been a while since we've chatted. I love Rebecca. And I've also talked to, on an email, with I want to say Tanya from Germany. And I've not talked to Brett Manning, but I have been in a workshop where he spoke, and I know I've met a lot of his students, and and I have talked with with Kevin Richards quite a bit. We've talked quite a bit on email, so yeah, like maybe 4 people. I don't really know Brett Manning, but I mean, I know who he is, and I know what he teaches. His teacher was Seth. He studied with Seth for years, and I've seen him in workshops, and I've listened to his CDs. So yeah, but I don't spend a lot of time. I don't have time to spend a lot of time doing listening to what other people are doing. Thank you so much. Oh, I know Sam Johnson and we've been in a couple shows together. And Sam's knocking it dead on YouTube. Got a lot of followers. We actually did a lesson together once, and then we've been in a couple shows together. Sam grew up just across town from me here, and he's a great kid, great guy. How to sing quietly with a lot of breath, like Billie Eilish. How to sing quietly with a lot of breath, like Billie Eilish. I've heard Billie Eilish sing, but the song I heard, she wasn't singing that quiet. But I would guess that you would sing quietly with a lot of breath the same way as Lady Gaga would, or Barbara Streisand would, or whoever. And that is, you relax your vocal cords. First of all, you don't push as much air, so that's going to bring the volume down. Now, if I relax the vocal cords even more, I'm going to let more air escape. But it's also, I run out of air really fast. So I would tend not to try and let so much air escape as just to bring the loudness down, not doing it so loud. That way I don't have to push so much air, and I'm not going to have so much air escape. So I can sing softly and quietly, but not necessarily breathy. Just bring the volume down. So if I said, that's pretty quiet, but it's not necessarily breathy. I prefer not to do that. Why change my chord structure? I'd rather leave the chord structure consistent. In other words, adduct consistently, not relax and let so much air escape that I'm, pushing too much air out. Or going to falsetto. Falsetto would do the same thing, where air just blows past the vocal cords. I'd rather keep the cords together and then control the loudness and the softness by bringing the dynamic down, how much I'm pushing it, so that the loudness is only, it's very, very soft. Okay, let's see here. DC says, great point. I've never thought about it being vocal cord closure. I guess that is why somebody like Adam Lambert can seemingly always have a connected voice. He's mastered his vocal cords. I agree completely. Connected voice and great breath control. Yeah, so that the chord structure is so very important in terms of keeping the vocal cords, or allowing you to maintain better control of your breath. Okay. M. Cross says, what is vocal cord abduct? Is it the same as connecting? Thanks. So I'm not saying abduct. I'm saying adduct. To adduct is to bring together. The adduct is to bring to the midline, to the middle. So one side comes into the middle, the other side comes in the middle, and they come together. So adducting the vocal cords would be bringing the cords together. And if to abduct is to take them apart, to take away. So to adduct means to bring the chord structure to the midline, to bring them together, to bring the two vocal cords so that there's so that they are touching each other, and then in the cycle of the chord structure, they fluctuate like this, or they vibrate. Slow motion. That's slow motion right there. But they vibrate very, very rapidly. And air is passing through. So if I don't adduct them firmly enough, then too much air escapes. If I adduct them appropriately, like just right, then it's like how I talk and how I like to sing. If I squeeze them too tight, then there's not enough air that gets through. And so, it's hard to speak that way. It's really hard to sing. So that's over-adducted. And so, and then the muscle inside the vocal cords also are contracting. And so we want the just right contraction. Remember the story of the three bears? Goldilocks comes in and sleeps on one bed. It's too soft. And another bed, it's too hard. And then the middle bed is just right. We want that Goldilocks just right in terms of vocal cord closure or adduction. The muscle in the vocal cord and the air from the lungs need to be able to play nice. So it's just right. If it's too loose, too much air escapes. If it's too tight, not enough air is getting through. So we want that. We want it to be like we talk, which is how singing and speaking are similar. There's a balance of air and muscle in the vocal cord. I don't have to think about breathing while I'm speaking. I shouldn't have to think about breathing when I'm singing. Why would I? Except that in singing, sometimes we have to hold out the note. And like I showed earlier, we change the dynamic, loudness and softness. And so that can also change how long, we have to, when we have to breathe and how long we're going to hold that and so forth. So that's more about planning than it is anything. But it helps. It does help to take a low breath so that the diaphragm comes down. Tummy, it's like there's a balloon down there filling up with air. Larynx comes down, and now I'm filled with air. Everything is relaxed up here, and I've got plenty of air to sing with. And if I'm performing on stage, if I'm doing a show and I'm speaking also lines, then I've got that ability to pull the tummy in and get some projection. Anyway, how do you keep a neutral larynx? So, William, neutral larynx is pretty much where you speak, if you speak normally. And so by keeping, the strategy behind keeping a neutral larynx is to sing like you speak. That is, when the notes go higher, you don't reach up and grab or squeeze it or pinch it. And so the quick answer to that question is you learn how to bridge so that you can sing through the bridge. So the larynx stays neutral. But if I said larynx goes up. So I have to learn how to do what I just showed you, and I couldn't do that. So again, go get your vocal type and do the exercises for your vocal type. Get the PDF in the description below this video. Get your vocal type, and it takes you to a test, gets you your vocal type, and then you do the exercises for your vocal type to teach you how to do what I just showed you, or to teach you to get your vocal cords to come together more firmly, or to stop the crack or the flip or the break. That's a flip falsetto vocal type, or maybe you already mix. And so there are exercises there to help you improve your mix. Harshad says, does hypothyroidism affect my vocal cord while practice singing? Yeah, so Harshad, if your thyroid is swollen and enlarged, then it's going to impinge on the vocal cords, or it's going to be leaning against it. It's going to cause some crowding. And so, yes, it might affect the free flow, the free function of the vocal cords. They may have to work harder to do their job. So yes, I would do a search online to get more information on that. But yes, it will maybe tire your voice out. You may not have the high notes or the low notes or the ease of singing that you had before. And so it does impact the vocal folds themselves by crowding them. And so they don't have the free function. Dust Composer says it's about strain versus support singing. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so there is another exercise here. There's a whole nother issue here about breathing. Johnny Wesley says, my dream is to keep my notes constantly from low to high notes. Hugs from Brazil. Thank you, Johnny O. Nice to have you here today. Tips, top up. What are you doing here? Learning breathing? You can't breathe? Yeah, that's a good question. I can breathe when I speak. So I should be able to breathe when I sing, shouldn't I? Yakov, hi, nice to have you here. Do you know how to do Eskimo singing? I don't. Sounds interesting, though. Tanya says, I'm just feeling it, I think. I agree with what you said. It's multiple things going on with my voice. And all those changes have left my confidence shaken. So Tanya, let me tell you that I did not meet. Well, I know of women who've had babies whose voices stay there or they get them back. I mean, if they're just out for a while because they're busy, you know, they're busy raising their kids and they don't have time to sing. But they haven't lost their singing chops because of their pregnancies. Okay, and so I would venture out to say, Tanya, that it's not so much about the stretch and about the tear and so forth in the muscles, in the birthing muscles. I think it's probably about something else, and it maybe is just that you're learning a new thing, and sometimes there's this valley of the despair of change, right? But it's going to pay off. I don't think you need to look at birth as childbirth as the source of the problem. I would look more towards the cord structure, more towards practice time, more towards, you know, those things, like from here up. Yes, I'm sure breathing, and I know this from experience, women have a harder time breathing, allowing the diaphragm to do the work. I think because of childbirth, but they can get it back, or they can develop it in the first place. Yakov says, I like to sing with food in my mouth. Have you ever tried that? It's like the best of both worlds. To life, l'chaim, 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 to life. Duo X. I still keep going into falsetto when I do the gee exercise. Gee, 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 gee. My larynx went up. Gee, 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 gee. I pull the larynx down with that dumb sound. If I don't go hootie, gee, 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 larynx is going to go up, and I'm going to go into falsetto. If I allow it to go hootie, gee, 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 the larynx stays down, and my voice stays, the chords stay adducted. They don't go into falsetto. It's the larynx. So do it over in post. Stay really dopey if you have to. You might try it on goo 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 goo. You'll find out right away if you're doing it wrong, because you'll do it this way. Goo 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 goo. Goo 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 goo. Okay. Dog breathing make your sound better. I don't know about that. In fact, I have no idea what you're talking about. How do you develop a certain style, like singing jazz? Can you also give any advice on what differentiates jazz singing from other genres? So Yakov, interestingly, you'd asked that question about jazz. I was in a jazz singing class, and I went to a voice lesson. I was in a 10-day workshop down in Hollywood, above Santa Monica in the hills up there, back in 2009, and I went to a singing class, and I started singing like this. I can't remember the words now, but anyway, one of Gershwin's numbers, and I was singing kind of breathy. I was kind of breathy, and she said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you singing breathy? Why don't you do why don't you sing like you just did the exercises?" Because I didn't do that in my exercises. And I said, "Well, it's jazz. It's kind of smoky sounding." And she said, "Don't change your vocal cords. Don't change the condition of your chords. Just sing it softer." That really helped me understand something. Rather than change the condition of my chord structure so that I was relaxing them and letting a lot of air escape, which is also throwing me off my technique, I just needed to do it quieter. So that was a really, so I will say that there's no difference there shouldn't be a difference in our technique for singing jazz per se. That is, the larynx stays appropriately low at the level where we speak. The chord structure stays appropriately adjusted. So there's a balance between the air and the muscle. So the style of jazz is what the words are like, what the vocal line is like, what the melody is like, the feeling of it. All those things combine to create the style. And I think the best way to learn how to do style is to copy 3 or 4 other singers and learn how to do what they do, and then combine those different things to fit your personality so you come up with something original. Evil Genius, how to adduct. How to bring the vocal cords together, please. Ah, 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 ah. Chords aren't adducting there. Ah, ah, na, na, na. So we have to be able to do that exercise in order to get, if your chords are not adducting appropriately. But here's some other things. And I'm going to, because it's almost 3 o'clock, let me share one other thing. I was in a workshop some time ago, and the singer was having trouble with loudness. And when she got up into her upper range, it didn't sound like she was getting any air to her vocal cords. But the problem was her tongue. Her tongue was going back into her mouth and down. So what's normally open was closing up when she started to sing. And so you might think, oh, she's got an air problem. As a teacher, I've thought that before from listening to students. Oh, they don't have enough air coming to their vocal folds. Well, why? In this case, it had nothing to do with, well, she was going through the right breathing motion, but it wasn't happening for her. And one of the reasons why it wasn't happening for her was that her tongue was closing her throat up. And the front part of the tongue was in the mouth was getting in the way of air flowing, free flowing. And so imagine air going to the vocal cords, but then getting stopped by the tongue. So one of the things that you might do, and you may find yourself in this situation, if you feel like you have a breathing problem, you might have, the tongue might be cluttering up and closing up your once open space in your throat and in your mouth. So here's an exercise for you to do. Do it this way. Ladies would do it from here. Guys down here. Now, I want you to do it a little bit funny. Ladies. Do that several times until you're able to get to allow everything to relax here. Stay hooty with it. In other words, you don't want to say don't squeeze it or pinch it. Allow it to go hooty. So you might want to stay a little imposed and allow that to go. again, take that low breath, fill up with air. Drop your jaw. Keep your tongue right below your lower teeth. Allow that tongue to rest there. Don't pull it back inside. You don't want to pull the tongue back and then flatten it down and close off the throat. And you don't want to have it arch up into the top of your mouth, filling up that space. Let the tongue rest on the eval right behind your lower teeth. Get that going very nicely and very naturally and repeatedly. Be able to do that anytime. And then go to something like nay, 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 nay. If you can get that open feeling where the tongue is not obstructing your throat. You may have discovered that the muffled or small sound, a small amount of air coming out of your mouth wasn't because you were breathing, had a problem breathing. It was that it was being obstructed by the tongue. Here's another exercise to keep the tongue so that it's independent of what you're singing. The tongue should be free moving all the time. Can you do that? Yes, it looks strange, but the tongue has to be free. It can't be pulling back and going down and jamming up our air passageway, because then the sound can't come out. It sounds like we have a breathing problem. We actually have a tongue problem. So you can see today that we really only talked about 1 or 2 breathing exercises or techniques, and then we addressed more about having vocal cord adequately closed or adducted and appropriately adducted, and keeping the tongue out of the way. And many times that's going to help solve so-called breathing problems. All right, so let me just, we're now over an hour. I try not to go too much longer than this, but let me answer some quick questions here. The Eskimo singing was a joke. Okay. I've never heard Eskimo sing, so I don't know. Oh, let me, Evil Genius, how do you know Morissette M? No, I don't. She has the best breath control. Cool. I'll have to check that out. Jeet, how many months should I practice my voice before actually singing a song in my mix? You know, you could start singing right away. I wouldn't wait too long. I'd start getting going as soon as you can, but I would try a new song, not an old song you've been doing for years. Pick a new song and then learn that. In fact, pick a song that you're unfamiliar with at all and learn your song with your mix that way. I wouldn't try and go sing a song you've done before. Why? Old habits. Kick right in. Desk composer. So if I compose a song for a singer with coloratura style, like long legato notes, should not I suggest the song to a singer with a breathy voice? Should I not suggest the song to a singer with a breathy voice? I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that she's a coloratura. Any singer who has a breathy voice is going to run out of air faster, regardless of the style. Regardless of whether it's legato, well, probably staccato she won't lose as much air because she's But I would not categorize a coloratura vocal classification with associate that with breathiness and so forth, because she may have a perfectly adducted chord structure and be able to sing very, very long phrases, even though she's coloratura. Okay, Annette says, Kumar says, hi sir, from India. I have a problem in my vocal fold because of swelling. My swelling problem is get solved, but I'm not comfortable in singing my vocals get distuned. Please suggest what is, are you, Annette, are you singing, Annette, Ankit, sorry. Ankit, are you singing traditional Indian classical music? Traditional Indian classical? Let me know that, please. Sheet, Jeet, Yahit. How many months should I practice? Okay, we talked about that. I would go, I sang, it took me about 6 months before I auditioned a song in front of somebody, and I still pulled chest. It took me a while to really get into my mix. I'd get started as soon as you can. Evil genius. Okay, we talked about that. All right, so Tanya says, appreciate you, Chuck. You're a wonderful human. Thank you, Tanya. You are too. Congratulations on your babies. My wife and I have 8 children. So I love families. Ariel. Hi, Ariel. Did you know that the spoken Russian language has one of the widest frequency ranges of any language? No wonder all those girls can sing so well naturally. No, I didn't know that. I think that's really interesting, Ariel. Dust Composer, Tanya. Okay. Dust Composer says, maybe the breath issue after birth isn't the issue. Okay. We talked about that, didn't we? How to do vocal bridge. So, Janio, Wesley, how to do the vocal bridge? Go down below, get that free PDF, get your vocal type, and take the vocal test. And the exercises for your vocal type will help you learn to bridge. Angelique, hi. Can poor breathing or feeling as though you're close to having to take another breath affect a singer's pitch? Yes. Yeah, if you're running out of air, it's very, very common for the pitch to start to fall. Or if you start pushing it because you're running out of air, it could make it sharp too, but probably more likely to fall under the pitch slightly. Evil Genius 122. Hey Chuck, how are you spending your time during this quarantine? Pretty much like I always have. I have a window here. I look outside. But I teach online. I teach Skype. And so one thing I do want to add, Evil Genius, to what I'm doing is I want to start practicing more. I don't practice as much when I'm not in a show. So I want to start getting into a better routine of practice, and I want to learn some songs. I just want to add some new songs to sing sometime. I think I got a mix and falsetto mixed up during the exercise. Yeah, you can. A falsetto is like this. That's falsetto. The mix is the one continuous line, uninterrupted tone. Falsetto is when it cracks and breaks into falsetto. Tanya, I think you're right. Okay, you guys are having a good conversation. Thank you for talking to each other and helping each other. Sir, twang exercise is good to make chest voice stronger. If by twang you mean nay, 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 nay. I would say chest voice stronger. It's not really about strengthening the chest voice. I think the nay, nay, nay that's a little exaggerated helps balance the vocal cords so that they're not as heavy in the bottom, but they're deeper in the top, so they're not going into falsetto. There's more tone There's more connection in the chord structure, deeper into the vocal cords. So I think it's more about vocal cord than because it will make it will make your chest voice more consistent with your middle voice and with your head voice. It helps unify the voice so that all of it's sounding very similar. Ink says when you do the flip falsetto exercises with the songs, or with the googs and the gees, there isn't that much closure, but with the coos and the c's, there's much more code closure. Is that normal? Yeah. So the g is going to give you more sense of chord closure. It's not necessarily but that g is just above it. So I think that's true. I think you're going to have a little bit more closure, and it's also going to keep the larynx down slightly with that g. The coo. Say it, Ink, like this: g, k, g, k. You have to phonate to say g. The G, you have to create sound, so you're bringing the vocal cords together earlier. G. When you do the k, I don't have to phonate at all. I'm not making a sound. Coo. Okay. Anit says yes. Jasper says sir. Anit, I used to sing Bollywood. Ah, cool. Thanks so much, Chuck. When my vibrato won't come out. Why my vibrato won't come out? I was not Indian classical too. And Indian classical too. Oh yeah, Bollywood. Gotcha. So Anit, it's probably because you've been pulling chest, and the larynx is hiking up is part of the problem. Again, I keep going back to the exercises for pulled chest, high larynx. Go find your vocal type, get that free PDF, get your vocal type, start doing the exercises for your vocal type. That'll help eliminate your problems so that you're able to bridge without pulling, reaching, or breaking or cracking or anything else. Thank you, guys. Dusk Composer says thanks to you. Why my vibrato won't come out? Jasper, I didn't have vibrato until I was 43. I thought I wasn't born with it, and I thought I didn't have it if I wasn't born with it, but that's not true. You can do vibrato with, you can learn vibrato, and so you just have to, I've got a video on my on my YouTube channel that says 5 ways to do vibrato. Search for that 5 ways to get vibrato in your voice, and that maybe will get you started. I have a whole course on vibrato. It's not available generally. It's inside the membership site, Singer's Impact. But for now, check out the free video on my YouTube channel. Skywoods, hey Chuck, how long should you practice high notes every day? I do the 10-minute video you posted, how to sing high notes for guys without falsetto daily, as well as 3-minute nay high note exercises. I think, is that helping, Sky? I hope that that's helping, but I would say that you don't necessarily have to practice high notes, just practice the exercises. So when you do a high note, we're doing low notes and we're doing high notes, we're doing middle notes. I wouldn't do any exercise exclusively high. You always want to be transitioning from your chest voice through your middle and into your head voice, through the middle and back down again the chest as often as you can. You want the full voice to be developed, not just one part of the voice. So you wouldn't learn the piano by just practicing the left hand for 5 years and then do the right hand. No, you put them together immediately. And so I would say practice 30 minutes a day minimum. Angelique, is there a good exercise that will help being able to sing longer with one breath? Yes. In fact, there's several of them. The exercises for the light chest, no chest vocal type is a great way to get the vocal cords to balance. And so I would go to I would go to, in the description below this video, get my vocal type, free PDF, download that, and do the exercises for whatever your vocal type is. It might not be light chest, no chest. It might be mix. It might be flip, falsetto. It might be full chest, high larynx. Those will help you balance your voice faster than anything and enable you to sing long passages with, with better breath support, because your vocal cords will be balancing with the air. All right, everybody. We've gone 1 hour and 16 minutes, but we had so many questions today, so many great comments. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope this has been helpful. There's several important exercises that I gave you today that address breathing, not directly, but indirectly, and will have a big impact on your breathing. And then there's some exercises or some techniques that I showed you for breathing that will help. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 180 today. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. Thanks.